Have you heard what happened to Princess Charlene of Monaco? Her life has taken a turbulent turn, marked by rumors of a cheating scandal and whispers of her husband's alleged affairs. As the world watched the fairy tale marriage between Charlene and Prince Albert unravel, shocking revelations surfaced, and they're shaking the very foundation of Monaco's royal family. But how did it all go so wrong for the princess who once seemed to have it all? The fairy tale marriage in July 2011. During a competition in Monaco, she crossed paths with Prince Albert II. That brief moment sparked a connection that would alter the course of her life. Over the next decade, their bond deepened. By 2010, the engagement was official, and in 2011, the world tuned in to see Charlene marry into the royal family of Monaco. It seemed like the ultimate fairy tale, but beneath the surface, trouble was already brewing. As their wedding approached, disturbing rumors began circulating. Some outlets claimed Charlene had tried to escape Monaco multiple times before the ceremony. One particularly shocking report suggested she even tried to take refuge in the South African embassy in France. The palace denied these stories, but the whispers wouldn't stop. Meanwhile, Prince Albert faced a wave of scrutiny over two children born out of wedlock, one from the early 90s and the other in 2003. The second child's identity became public after French media exposed private photos, forcing Albert to acknowledge his son. For a country like Monaco, where the royal family represents not just tradition but national identity, this kind of scandal doesn't just affect the man, it risks the entire monarchy's image. From the very start, Charlene entered a marriage haunted by past secrets and mounting pressure. Many hoped that once the vows were exchanged, Prince Albert would leave his previous affairs in the past. But those hopes were short-lived. In 2020, yet another allegation surfaced. A woman in Brazil claimed Albert had fathered a child with her during the time he was already involved with Charlene. The timing and nature of the claim sent shockwaves across Europe. It stirred up every fear Charlene may have buried, fears of betrayal, of being trapped in a public role where her private anguish didn't matter. Close friends said she felt suffocated and deeply hurt by the allegations. Her struggle wasn't just emotional, it was playing out on the world's stage. Observers began noticing subtle but powerful changes in Charlene's behavior. The once vibrant new royal seemed increasingly withdrawn. At public functions, she appeared stiff and detached, rarely smiling or engaging. Her distance from Prince Albert became apparent, with body language experts suggesting growing tension between them. Talk of a separation began to swell, but Monaco had a lot at stake. A royal divorce would be a PR nightmare. The monarchy's pristine image, which fuels tourism and investor confidence, couldn't survive such a hit. Then came an unbelievable report, one that claimed Albert had offered Charlene €12 million per year to stay married and keep up appearances. If true, this deal wasn't about love. It was about preserving the image of a stable, united monarchy. Behind the palace gates, Charlene's life looked more like a contract than a partnership. The alleged financial deal came with conditions: appear at royal events, uphold public dignity, and continue presenting the illusion of a strong marriage. In exchange, she'd receive wealth, status, and a prominent role in high society. But emotionally, the cost was steep. Friends said the spark was gone. The freedom, the passion that had once defined her Olympic years had all but disappeared. Then came her most visible break from the palace, and possibly from Albert himself. In 2021, Charlene left Monaco for a prolonged trip to her homeland, South Africa. At first, it was described as a conservation mission, but as weeks stretched into months, questions started swirling. The palace claimed she suffered from a serious ear, nose, and throat condition that prevented her from flying, but many speculated this was just a cover. Photos of Charlene in South Africa showed her looking frail, drained, and nothing like the confident woman Monaco had come to know. When she finally returned, she didn't resume royal duties. Instead, she checked into a private facility for treatment. Whether for physical illness or emotional healing, one thing was clear: something was seriously wrong. The glossy image of the smiling princess was shattered. Now the public saw something more human, more raw, a woman worn down by years of palace drama, painful headlines, and unresolved tension. Still, through all of this, Charlene managed to hold on to a piece of herself, the part that always found purpose in helping others. In 2012, she founded the Princess Charlene of Monaco Foundation, using her background in swimming to promote water safety around the world. The mission was deeply personal. Charlene knew firsthand the value of education and survival in the water. Her foundation spread to dozens of countries, teaming up with organizations like World Rugby and the Red Cross to save lives and teach thousands of kids critical water skills. Despite the emotional whirlwind in her personal life, Charlene doubled down on her commitment to children, health, and wellness. And that passion gave her a reason to keep showing up. She didn't stop there. Charlene also contributed to hospitals, donated to neonatal care programs, and offered critical aid during the COVID-19 pandemic. Over time, that quiet strength began to shift public opinion. Charlene wasn't just the wife of Prince Albert anymore. She was a force in her own right, inspiring women everywhere who'd ever felt invisible or powerless within their own relationships. To fully grasp where Charlene is today, you have to look back even further. She wasn't born into royalty. She was born into grit. Raised in a modest family with German and Irish roots, her early life was focused on swimming pools, not palace halls. She won medals, faced setbacks, and trained relentlessly, eventually qualifying for the Olympics and representing her country with pride. She gave back to others, teaching underprivileged kids how to swim long before the world knew her name. These weren't just acts of charity. They were glimpses of who Charlene really was: driven, compassionate, and unafraid to push herself for something greater. But her life changed course after reconnecting with Prince Albert in 2005. What started with a message of condolences after his father's death turned into something deeper. They were both athletes, both driven, both familiar with the expectations of performance. For a time, it looked like their love story would defy the odds. They were married in 2011 in a dazzling royal ceremony watched by millions. Charlene wore a custom Armani gown encrusted with thousands of crystals and mother-of-pearl embellishments. Her look was flawless. But as the world celebrated, the weight of her new role had only just begun to settle on her shoulders. Even as she fulfills her royal duties today, the divide between Charlene's public life and private pain remains wide. People close to the palace have quietly hinted at her struggles with mental health, stress, and constant surveillance. The same woman who once ruled the water with confidence now finds herself navigating palace politics, tabloid gossip, and the constraints of an ancient institution. And for Charlene, that suffocating environment may be the very thing she's been quietly fighting to escape. Her long absences from Monaco, time in clinics, and carefully crafted public appearances seem less like royal routines and more like quiet rebellions. Motherhood has become her anchor. Charlene is known to be incredibly protective of her twins, Prince Jacques and Princess Gabriella. With Jacques set to inherit the throne and Gabriella becoming a beloved royal figure in her own right, Charlene's focus has shifted to raising them in a world where privacy is scarce and scrutiny is intense. The few glimpses we get of their family life, shared occasionally through social media or palace releases, show a woman fiercely dedicated to her children's happiness, even if her own joy has been harder to find. The emotion she saves for them is real, powerful, and unfiltered. One thing that hasn't gone unnoticed is how much Charlene's appearance has evolved over the years. Her once glamorous and iconic royal style has given way to more minimal, modern choices. Her hairstyles are more practical. Her expressions are more serious. Some say it's a reflection of maturity, but to others, it signals something deeper: a woman no longer trying to fit the mold of a picture-perfect princess. Her fashion has become a quiet protest, subtle but deliberate. Each public appearance seems to say, "I'm still here, but I'm doing this my way now." Interestingly, the media narrative around Charlene has also changed. Once dismissed as shy, then labeled as troubled, she's now being recognized for her quiet power. She rarely speaks publicly, but when she does, people listen. When she shows up at an event, the press takes notice. When she disappears, the world starts asking questions. Charlene is now a symbol of the modern royal dilemma. How do you serve a tradition that demands silence when your truth is begging to be told? What many people overlook is how deeply Charlene's situation reflects the unspoken realities of royal women everywhere. They're expected to smile, wave, and remain composed, no matter what personal pain they endure behind the scenes. For Charlene, that pain hasn't just been emotional, it's also been political. Every decision she makes, from skipping an event to changing her hairstyle, is dissected through a political lens. Was it a statement? A rebellion? A sign of marital trouble? Living under that microscope would exhaust even the strongest of individuals. And yet Charlene has endured it all with a kind of quiet dignity. She's not staging loud revolts or giving bombshell interviews. She's simply surviving. And in her survival, she's rewriting what it means to be a modern princess. In Monaco, where image is everything, the idea of a troubled royal is not just uncomfortable, it's dangerous. The principality thrives on the illusion of perfection. Tourists come not just for the views of the Grand Prix, but to glimpse a real-life fairy tale. If that illusion begins to crack, so does the international allure of the royal brand. That's why Charlene's extended absences, hospitalizations, and rumors of separation have sparked so much internal panic within the palace. It's not just a family matter, it's a national concern. And that puts even more pressure on her to conform, to remain publicly loyal, even when her personal world is falling apart. For most people, heartbreak is private. For Charlene, it's global news. Despite this, Charlene has managed to build influence in her own subtle way. She doesn't command crowds with speeches. But her presence alone now says more than words ever could. When she stands apart from Albert at events, when she appears visibly tired or emotionally distant, it speaks volumes. Her silence has become a language of its own, a quiet protest that's impossible to ignore. And the world has started paying attention. Not because she demands it, but because people sense there's a deeper story unfolding. In an age of media saturation, where most public figures chase attention, Charlene has taken the opposite route. And ironically, that's what's made her even more compelling. Her story has also sparked a broader conversation about the human cost of royal life. We often see the jewels and titles, but not the isolation, sacrifice, or loss of identity that comes with them. Charlene's journey has become a lens through which we understand the emotional toll that monarchy can inflict. It's not just about wearing a crown. It's about losing the right to say no, to choose love over duty, to leave when you're no longer happy. Her resilience, then, isn't just personal, it's symbolic. It represents every woman who stayed longer than she wanted to, kept quiet when she wanted to scream, and smiled through pain because the world expected her to. And perhaps the most powerful part of her story is that it's still unfolding. We don't know how it ends. Will Charlene reclaim her independence fully? Will she break free from the role that's been weighing her down for over a decade? Or will she continue to play her part, protecting her children's future and Monaco's image, while quietly rebuilding her own strength behind the scenes? Whatever the outcome, one thing is certain: Princess Charlene is no longer just a figure of sympathy. She's a symbol of perseverance, complexity, and quiet courage in the face of relentless pressure. And the world will be watching closely, not for the next scandal, but for the next chapter in the life of a woman who refuses to be forgotten.